Welcome back. We're excited you've decided to join us on this courage journey to get funded, get support, get traction, and get ahead. I'm Marone Klein.
And I'm Louise Yohe Klein. Of course, you know you can't thrive, expand, invent, and profit alone. It will take a network of support for you to get funded, get traction, and get ahead. And you know it takes a network of support to leverage the strengths and opportunities you listed and to mitigate or circumvent your weaknesses and threats you listed.
In this module, we want to assist you to map out the network you should build with delegates who can sharpen your thinking, extend your reach, and multiply your efforts and your capacity to get things done and generate value.
As you think about the network you want to mobilize, there are probably some people you're excited about working with who already get what you're doing and with whom you have a really good chemistry. And there are probably others who are going to be harder to convince that they should join you at a level 4 or level 5, or who may only come on board at a level 3.
The challenge is, as you think about the delegates who start at lower levels of activation and support, what does their lack of activation and support do to your energy? Does it make you shy away or stop listening and learning because of your own fear of failure or fear of success?
If you can throw away the fear of failure when critics point out flaws, weaknesses, and threats that you didn't think of and didn't include in your list in our previous module, you and your team will have an opportunity to learn when you engage with them and be way more, not way less, creative and successful.
And if you can throw away the fear of success, the fear of losing control as your innovation takes on a life of its own, and as evangelists step up with level 5 energy and use their own words, their own personality, and their own logic to champion your innovation in their way, not yours, you'll greatly multiply your success.
We have a quick demo to show what happens to our ability to see opportunities and threats and approach them with inventive thinking when we're driven by fear of failure and fear of success, rather than the joy of learning, growing, navigating those VUCA realities, and overcoming adversity. Are you ready?
Here goes. In 15 seconds, we'd like you to count the number of F's that you see on this slide, starting now. Time's up. And jot down the number of F's you counted. And on a 1 to 5 scale, jot down your confidence that you got them all.
Great. Now here's the answer key. If you think there's a trick to this, of course there is. Otherwise, we wouldn't be opening our webinar on building your network with this exercise. We've been using this activity for decades, and more than 3/4 of the people who see this for the first time don't get the count right, even with something as simple as concrete as the letter F.
What happens is they miss some of the F's in of, because there's a switch in our brain that makes us listen when we're counting. So what we hear is OV instead of hearing OF, unless there's a diverse enough group with people who can help us turn off the switch, like turning off the fear of failure and fear of success. Some of us miss the F's that are in places we didn't expect them to be, like the watchtower and the heading at the top of the page. And some of us get caught up in the panic pace of only having 15 seconds and miss F's simply because we don't take a breath, calm down, become mindful, and see more of what's right in front of us.
So as you're thinking about whom you need to include in your mobilization map or your network to get funded, get support, get traction, and get ahead, we'll encourage you to think about who can help you see more F's, not just who already sees the same F's you see.
We'll encourage you to look beyond the small circle of friends who served with you in the Army or worked with you in a previous job or in school, or who are in your own department or core job function. People who think like you might be a great, fun core team at the start, But with each step you take, getting traction and getting ahead, you're going to need more, different, and better skills to keep growing and get to the next level. You're going to need people who challenge your thinking and who can say slow down or veer left, not just go faster, full speed ahead.
If you're orchestrating an innovation initiative inside an enterprise, whether it's your family business or a large global corporation, of course it's important to look at what your boss and what your boss's boss think and see what they'll need to know to fund the innovation initiative you want to orchestrate. It's also important to look down in your hierarchy and understand the extra work and extra bandwidth that your idea will require from your own team, especially during the planning stage and the conversion or change management phase when you're switching over from what they've always done before to what they'll do after you get funded, get support, get traction, and get ahead.
But looking up and down the chain of command doesn't necessarily expand the number of Fs you see, or give you the mix of perspectives you need to succeed in a VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, adverse environment. So instead of working in a silo and chain of command or sitting back at level 2 and waiting for someone else to resolve differences and complexities, we'll advise you to build a network where you reach out and build bridges and partnerships with sister departments in your own enterprise, with people at different levels if you're leading innovation in a small entrepreneurial company, to partners in different enterprises that could include manufacturing or development partners, channel partners, suppliers, and beta customers who are co-developing your innovation along with you.
To navigate and decode the complexity of building these networks, matrix relationships, and alliances, we want to give you a way of thinking about what support you'll need from whom as you reach out to these partners. So the first
Go on, Louise.
The first rule to define is your own role. As the orchestrator, you're the glue or the nucleus that holds the network together, and that gives your partners the context, peripheral vision, and connectivity that smart, principled level 3, level 4, and level 5 contributors need to do their own jobs really well and coordinate what they're doing with what others are doing around them. As the orchestrator, it's not your job to come up with all of the answers or even all of the questions. It's your job to power up brilliance wherever it resides in your network, to get traction and get ahead, and to watch out for fear of failure and fear of success so it doesn't inhibit the brilliance and inventive thinking you need from your network.
We'll encourage you to think of bosses and bosses' bosses and boards not as masters or overseers who give orders and crack the whip and make sure that their commands are carried out, but as sponsors you'll turn to for investment and funding, who have the fiduciary responsibility of approving your budget and allocating resources and priorities. Your sponsors aren't there to tell you what to do, even if they do tell you what to do. They're there to approve your business case, agree on the ROI and value creation goals, provide the resources and priority, and hold you as the orchestrator accountable for the result. Some sponsors can be inside your own company, like your CFO or CEO, who answers to the finance committee of your board. Others might be outside your company, like economic decision makers in a customer, a channel partner, or a collaborator who's sharing the investment in the new offering that you're developing for your market.
As soon as the sponsor crosses the line and says, "Here's how I think you should approach this," in the blink of an eye and the change of a sentence, they switch roles and become an advisor, if, in fact, you value and want their advice. A sponsor who's capable of offering good advice is what we call smart money, which is different from a sponsor who has ideas and opinions, but isn't someone who can sharpen or refine your thinking. If you want a sponsor as an advisor, list them a second time as an advisor and understand you're ultimately accountable for making the best of that advice and achieving the investment goals that your sponsors expected.
An advisor offers know-how and ideas, whether they sit in the executive suite or the mailroom, or on a board of advisors or an external consultancy, or whether you just met them and exchanged a few interesting ideas at a conference. If they're a source of intelligence or analytics that can help you capitalize on an opportunity, enhance your strengths, mitigate your weaknesses, cope with a threat, add them to your list as an advisor. And if you're the orchestrator, you have the ultimate discretion to decide if you don't want them on the list. Although, if they're politically well connected, understand you might have to finesse the situation if you say, no thanks, that's not something that's going to help us, rather than being a yes person who appeases advisors who could lead you astray.
But understand, in that situation, you're still responsible for the results. So let me give you an example from our world. We worked with the CEO of a global healthcare corporation who was transforming his R&D organization so it would become more externally focused at what caregivers and payers needed to treat expensive diseases, rather than internally focused on their own research passions and academic interests. When he signed off on the budget and the scope of work, of course, you could see he was a sponsor.
To kick off the program, we needed him to step in front of a camera like this and deliver a webinar that could be beamed out to the organization live. At this moment of truth, when the success of the program we were orchestrating depended on him delivering an upbeat, inspiring, encouraging message about being outwardly focused and listening to sharp Q&A, we needed him to be engaging, not scolding the R&D team for years of being insular and inwardly focused. So in that situation, what role did we need him to play?
The answer is we needed him to be an executor. Yes, he was the sponsor. He was also an advisor, since he had great medical knowledge. But in this role, at this moment of truth, when we did the kickoff webinar, we needed him to be an executor, taking the assignment we agreed he would take and accepting coaching to deliver it with the impact we needed him to have on the rest of the employees. So you see, the same person can occupy 2 or 3 different roles on the chart, each with a different working relationship with you as the orchestrator.
At the top of the chart, you'll list the users and payers who decide to adopt your innovation. If they see how they can get the benefit of the value you're promising and see how it can meet their needs. We call them beneficiaries because it's only if they benefit from your innovation that they'll give you traction and deliver the value creation that'll help you get ahead in your career.
Finally, next to you in the middle, list the connectors. These folk can provide access and possibly endorsement when they vouch for you and introduce you to sponsors, advisors, executors, and beneficiaries. Good connectors also can tell you how to approach these people they're connecting you to, which may make them advisors as well as connectors.
Now, if you need more information about these roles as you go through on GroupMind and construct your map, we'll invite you to read Chapter 4 in our book, Power Up Brilliance, and read the flyer that's attached to this. And if you need some guidance to see if you're on the right track as you construct your mobilization map, send us an email and let's schedule a coaching call. I'm Jerome Klein.
And I'm Louise Yohe Klein. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar.